Okay, so I recently just posted a poll on the channel asking what kind of videos you guys wanted to see, and it looks like a majority of It looks like a majority of you want to see an emulator video, so that's what we're going to be doing today. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank everyone so much for the support thus far. It means so much to me to see all the community coming together and just kind of hanging out, talking games, all that stuff. And as promised, since we passed 500 subscribers, I will be opening up a Discord channel by the end of this video. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out the link in the description. But with all that said and done, hello everybody, I'm just a dude, and this is What is an Emulator? Now, for starters, this is a beginner-friendly video. So for anyone who's new to the retro gaming scene, this video is going to be for you and how to set up your emulator. So we're not going to go into anything too complex, just enough to get you up and running. That said, though, we need to cover a couple of things first. I had a couple comments in the previous couple videos asking what the difference between a front end and an emulator is. So let's get that out of the way. A front end is just a home screen for all of your games and apps. So think of like your iPhone or your Android device, how you have all the apps on a particular screen and then you can click on it and go from there. Good examples of a front end is Beacon, is Daigisho, Emulation Station. Those are all pretty good front ends and probably the leading front ends currently. Some are paid, some are not. I can discuss front ends in a different video. An emulator is something that plays your games. So even though an emulator can have a pretty UI and good user experience, it's different from a front end because it's the thing that's playing your games. Now, let's get into how you can actually play the games and what all you need. Firstly, and this goes for any emulator, you need to have the games, aka the ROM. Now, all a ROM file is the digital version of your game. So take something like God of War, for example. If you wanted to play God of War on an emulator, you would first need that ROM file. Now, for the sake of keeping things beginner-friendly, we're not going to dive into how to acquire ROMs or how to rip them yourself. We're just going to assume that you already have the ROMs necessary to play whatever games you want to play. If you need help finding ROMs, you can ask the community. Alright, so now that we have those specifics out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the emulators. The first one I want to talk about today is RetroArch. This is the Walmart of emulators, and I recommend using this for anything like DS and below. Well, maybe not even DS. So that includes everything from Game Boy, Game Boy Color, NES, SNES, those kinds of things. Now, all of these emulators can be found on Google, and I will be sure to leave links in the description of where you can find them. But once you get to the homepage of RetroArch here, you're going to go to Downloads. You're going to scroll down, and there's going to be two versions, and most emulators are going to have multiple versions of that app. There's going to be the Download Nightly and Download Stable. The difference between Nightly and Stable is Nightly is regularly updated with new firmware, but it has more potential for bugs, so just keep that in mind. If you download the Nightly, while it may be more quote-unquote up-to-date, the likelihood of it crashing on you or not being compatible with a specific device is a lot higher, whereas with Stable is, less likely to do any of that. So let's just go ahead and download Stable here. And once you have it installed, it's going to show up here. You're going to double click this and then it's going to do nothing. Whoa. And it will continue to the wizard. It's going to ask you do you want to do this? And you're like, yeah, totally. And you pretend like you read all the agreement stuff and then you just click next. Destination folder. If you have a specific destination, this is where you would do it. I don't care. So let's just go next. Click next. It's going to ask you if you want to create a shortcut. I don't really care to create. Actually, you know what? For the sake of the video, we'll create a shortcut. So we'll install it. It's going to continue the installation process, and we will be right back. Great. And once it's finished, you can click on Finish, and here we go. It's at the top here. So I'm going to open that. Oh, here we go. Play using Discord. No, I don't want to do that. So go away. Awesome. Now, the first thing that we see here is the main menu. This is where you can do everything. Now let's walk through the main menu real quick. There's load core, which I'll get into in a second. Load content, which if you have your ROM ready to play, this is where you'll play it. All right, playlists, which basically is a mixed media searching thing. Like if we click on it, can you get out of the way? There we go. So you can select your history, your favorites, if you have images from games or videos. Content list cores, which basically means that if you have cores that don't require ROMs or anything like that, this is that. And then the explore. Next, we have import content, pretty self-explanatory. You'll either click and drag your ROM or you'll click import content there. Net play, this is for anyone that wants to play multiplayer games. So if you have, I don't know, Super Mario Kart, or you have, I don't know, what's another multiplayer game? So if you wanted to play Secret of Mana or Mana, however you want to say it, with your friends, you could do that through the net play. Online updater, also pretty self-explanatory. Information, which nobody cares about. Configuration file, if you want to configure things. Show desktop menu. So this is if you have it like on full screen and you want to... No. That's disgusting, by the way. Never click this button. Restart the application, which actually helps with a lot of like setting changes, and we'll go over that in a second. And then quit if you wanted to quit. So first and foremost, let's load a game. I just realized I do not have any ROM files on my computer. Okay, so I mentioned Secret of Mana earlier, so let's go ahead and just try and load that. And as you can see, it does not work. What? Why not? Okay, well, it's because we don't have the correct core installed. See, as you can see here on the bottom left, it says no core. So let's fix that. First, you'll go to load core, download core, and then it's going to fetch a core list. Perfect. And let's scroll down all the way to something that says SNES on it. This is where all the cores are, so if you have a specific console or game that you want to play, like PlayStation or DS or Game Boy, it should be here. So here's the DS stuff. Again, things like 3DS, DS aren't the best on here and not what I would recommend playing, but things like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, these are all perfectly fine. All right, so now we're getting to NES, N64, and we should be seeing, SNES. Now each of these cores run a little bit differently, and the compatibility with front ends varies, so be sure to check which front end you're using and what the front end likes if you want to connect your RetroArch to that. But for now, let's just choose the first one, Beetle Superfaust. There we go, and then I can click load content, click and drag. Honestly, you don't even need to click load content most of the time. Whoa, and it works. Do I have control over my game? I don't. I did not. I didn't set up any controls, but it should be plug and play if you plug in your Xbox controller or any controller into your computer. But if you wanted to change the input of your, controller, whether it be on keyboard or whatnot, it should be in the settings tab, which we'll go here next. There's a lot of stuff here, including input. This is where you'll change your inputs, which we will go over in just a second. So first we have user interface, which changes the way that RetroArch looks. We'll come back to this. There's video, there's audio, and these just change the way that your game looks and plays. There's latency. This is in attempts to fix any discrepancies between you playing the game and seeing the game. Frame throttle, so features like fast forwarding or rewinding are in this. You can toggle them on and off. God damn, there's so many settings, man. For the sake of the video, we're not going to cover over everything, just the things that I deem important. So user interface, input, and then RetroArch, or sorry, not RetroArch, Retro Achievements. If you have a Retro Achievement account, this is where you set it up. You can click here on Retro Achievements, and then you can turn it on, and then you'll enter in your username and password here. Settings that I like to use are hardcore mode. So this disables any cheats or rewinds while you're playing the game. Rich presence. So whenever you complete an achievement, it pops up at the top right of the screen. And that's usually all I have for that. Moving back into input, this is where you put your inputs. Turbo fire, all that means is when you hold down a specific key, it pretends like it's pressing that button multiple times. So if you wanted to press the A button like 1,000 times really, really fast, that's what the turbo fire setting does. Hotkeys, so if you're playing on a computer, PC, whatever, and you want to have a hotkey for bringing up a specific menu. This is where you set that up. Menu controls are different from game controls, so keep that in mind. But when you're plugging in your controller, they should work relatively similar. I believe everything is mapped to Xbox layout. So when you click the A button, or when you click the bottom button, it's OK. And when you click the B button, it's back. But for Nintendo, it's swapped. So when you press the B button, it will actually mean OK. But when you click the A button, it'll mean back. So if you wanted to swap that, you could come here. There's actually a specific setting for it. Menu, swap, OK, and cancel buttons. If you wanted to change your controls, you'll click on retro bindings and then you'll click a port. Now, on certain consoles, you could have multiple ports. Like the PlayStation 2, I believe, has 2 ports by default. Port 1 is always going to be your player 1 controller, and port 2 is always going to be player 2, port 3, 4, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and click on controls. And if we actually scroll down right here, here's all our keybinds. So D-pad up, D-pad down, and it shows, oh, we have key up, key down, left, blah, 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 blah. So you can change them here by clicking on it, and it'll give you a specific amount of time, and you'll just click, whichever you want it to be, and it will be that. And we're going to go back. Let's go over user interface for a second, and appearance is what we want. If you don't like the way that your RetroArch looks, or you think it could look better, they have a color theme here. So you can click on color theme, and whoa, look at all these themes. That's really cool. So you can click on any of these themes. Let's just go with Grovebach Dark. So I'll click on that, and look at that. It changes the way things look. Let me go back to basic black. And if we go back and scroll all the way down, we see something called menu. Now, if we click on menu and we just say, I don't know, XMB, for example. Now, as you can see, nothing has happened quite yet. And that's because we actually need to go back all the way to the main menu and restart the application. So let's do that now. And ta-da, here we go. It looks just like a PSP would. And of course, the controls and the layout can vary from theme to theme, so just keep that in mind. And some even have specific settings to them. So for example, this one, we can go into the user interface and we can actually change the appearance of this one from electric blue to say apple green, or I don't know, light. Ew, I don't want that one. Is there any like orange ones? Flaming hot, yeah. Family red, ew. melonDS is up on our list. Now, there are other emulators for DS, like Desume, like this one. And it's cool and stuff, but it's not the one that I would recommend. I recommend melonDS just because it's more actively updated. So here's the website. As always, we'll go to downloads, and then we'll scroll all the way down until we see all the downloads. I have a Windows 64 device. This is the one that I think everyone should be using, but if you have Linux or Mac, you can download that. However, there is also an Android build of this emulator. So if you have Android, it should be available on the Google Play Store, so you can get it there. Here it is on the Google Play Store. Now, don't be scared of me showing off specifically the Windows emulators. Most emulators are going to be exactly the same between the Windows and the Android builds, if there is one. So, similar process here. We have downloaded melonDS, except for it's in a zip file. That's so cool. Awesome. And now we have it here. I'm going to just delete the zip because I don't need it. And ta-da, and we can just open the application. It is so tiny. What? It won't be this small all the time. You can obviously change the size and whatnot. And quite literally, you can click and drag a ROM and just get started. So let's do that really quick. And boom, we have Advanced Wars playing on our computer. That's so cool. So if you want to change your screen layout, you just come to view, and there's a couple different ones. So there's screen size. So let's maybe like do 2x. Whoa, that's so cool. And then you can change the rotation for things like Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. They had you like turn or rotate the DS 90 degrees so you could do like these big battles. So that's what that's for. There's pixel gap. So for things like Arkanoid DS, there is like a bar, or like on the actual DS, there's like a physical piece in between. So we can actually like increase, like, oh, now it has, can the animation thing like go away? Here we go. There's like a physical thing in the way of the DS. So this helps kind of like with that. If you need help with perspective, you can change the layout from this to that to hybrid, you know, which does this, which I think a lot of Pokemon people do. So they can play the main Pokemon game here. And then if they have like a teeny tiny team, what am I talking about? And then of course, if you wanted to change your inputs, all you have to do is go to config, input and hotkeys, click on that. And wow, would you look at this pretty UI? So if you want to, you know, change from up to the up key, left to the left, right to right, you know, all very standard stuff. And then we can just click OK. And would you look at that? Now it works in game. Huzzah! And that's pretty much all I'm going to cover for melonDS. All right, next up on our list is PPSSPP. PP. There are two versions of this app. One is the standard one, which is free, and then there is a gold version. I have not bought the gold version, so I don't know all the differences, but I think there's some increase, like performance enhancements, different settings, things like that. But for most people, the regular download is going to be just fine. So you'll click on download here. This is their main page, by the way. There are multiple versions of this. There's some on Android, iOS, which I didn't even know, that must be new, and Windows. I'll just click on the installer here, click yes, and wait a million years for it to install. And there we go. We have the setup application here. So let's double click this. And similar to RetroArch, it's going to ask you if we really want to do this, and you just say yup. You'll select the language, English, of course, the place that you want it to be, install, yup. You just go through all these installation things like you don't know what a legal application is. Do I want to view the README text? Not really. I just want to launch the thing. So let's finish up here and launch it. Woo! And we have it launching. Very cool. Now, don't be scared. There's a lot of stuff here, but you can actually upload your ROMs. So I have my ROM folder open here, and quite literally, it's the same as everything else. You can just click and drag, and it will start working. Now, back into the main menu here. If you want all of your DS games to just kind of populate this area, all you have to do is click browse, go to wherever it is, in which case it's here for me. I'll click my PSP folder and say select folder, and ta-da, here we go. This is all of my games. And then of course you can hover over it, or you can click it, whatever. When you're in a game, if you click escape, it'll take you to this menu here. So you can activate a save state. So you'll just say save state, and whoa, look at that. And all a save state is a place in the game where it's saved. Wow, great explanation, genius. So let's say I fell into a pit or whatever reason, I want to restart the game. I can press escape again, go to my save states, and just click on load state, and it'll take me back to the place where I saved, and then restart everything like it never happened. Other useful settings are here, and then there's a lot of things here regarding graphics and whatnot. I recommend Vulkan always. It'll ask to restart, so let's just restart. And the reason we're using Vulkan is because it just runs better on most things. So if you have God of War, which unfortunately I don't have God of War to showcase, Vulkan can just run better sometimes. But that varies from device to device, so feel free to play around with those to get exactly what you're looking for. The next setting we'll go over is the rendering resolution. Now, depending on the device, you might be able to run higher quality resolution. I usually don't recommend going over 3 times because it's just not necessary, and you can't really tell the difference at that point. I usually sit around 2 times for my Retroid Pocket. So 2 to 3 is usually where you want to be. If you have the power to go 4 and up, feel free to do it. It doesn't matter. There's the control setting, and you can actually map your controls here when you click on control mapping, and then, you click on it. You're like, oh, which one do I want? I want my D-pad up to be the up key. So that's what you click, and then you keep going from there. It looks like there's multiple binds. So if you have an Xbox 360 or if you have some other controller, it looks like it already has it pre-mapped. So it's pretty much a plug and play experience. If you're playing a game, plug in your Xbox controller, plug in your regular controller, or shoot, your regular keyboard should do the trick. There's audio, which I've never really found a reason to come in here. I mean, everything sounds fine to me always, so there's that. Networking, again, this is super advanced stuff, but you can connect to like a VPN or something like that, and be able to play with friends online. Tools, this is where you find your retro achievements. Same thing like with melonDS, which I didn't show, and RetroArch. You can just click on retro achievements, make sure to enable it, click enable, and then you can log in. And then if you have a setting that you want to find specifically, you can filter it through here and, you know, ask the PSP gods, I guess. Okay, so the next ones we're going to cover all at once. Now, it's going to be a lot of information, but please bear with me. This is super important. There is DuckStation, there is PCSX2, and then there is RPCS3. DuckStation plays all of your PlayStation 1 games, PCSX2 plays all your PlayStation 2 games, and RPCS3 plays all your PlayStation 3 games. But the reason we're covering all three of these at the same time is because they require a BIOS file. Now, a BIOS file is basically just information on the system or the console that you're using. So things like the date, the time, the region that the console originated, that's what it's looking for. But let's go ahead and just start installing these, and then I'll show you where you can get the BIOS. Yes, I want to download DuckStation, that's why I clicked on it. Everything should be available right on the home page, so let's download the latest stable. For RPCS3, they have a no piracy policy. Just pretend like you read that and then click download. Of course, there's different ones. This looks a little bit scarier, but I promise it's the same as everything else. I'm running Windows, and I will click on this. There we go. Let's start with DuckStation here. So double clicking into the folder, there is a lot of stuff here. Don't be worried about any of that. It's scary, I know. Just click on DuckStation Qt blah 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 blah, and then it'll open eventually. There we go. Welcome to DuckStation. Woo! Click next. And this is where it's going to ask for all the BIOS. And as I previously said, DuckStation requires a PS1 or PS2 BIOS in order to run. We're going to be finding a PS2 BIOS here in just a second. Okay, so this portion of the video is the most complicated, so please bear with me as I walk you through it. Just like a ROM, BIOS files can be legal to have if you obtain them legally. So this is what this process is for. We are legally obtaining our BIOS files so that way we can legally play our games. And just for clarity, all of the games that I've shown thus far in the video, I do legally own and have legally ripped myself. So nothing here has been pirated or anything like that. And I technically cannot condone piracy because that would be illegal. Yarg. So I will leave a link in the description for this here, but this is the PS3 system software update. So back in ye olden PS3 days, there used to be software updates regularly that you could download on the PlayStation website. The reason this is important for us, though, is because in the system software updates, they included BIOS files. So you'll scroll all the way down here to where it says reinstall using a computer. And then it'll say download PS3 update, and you'll just say, yeah. It might take you to a new tab, it might not, but all the same, there should be something called PS3 update.pup, and that's what we want. File not downloaded, potential security. Shut up! What do you mean? Allow download. What in the world? Okay, so while that's downloading, there is another website that we'll need to go to, and this one's a little bit sketchier, but I promise everything works out just fine because Retro Game Corp said so. So Internet Archive, here it is. I will be sure to leave this in the description as well. This is called the PS BIOS Claim Tool. Now, all this is going to do is going to help us claim the BIOS tools. So in this update, there's a lot of different files and whatnot, but this is going to help sort through that and get what we need. So you'll go down to where it says zip file, and you'll click on that. And there's two files here. I'm going to click on release 2. Since that is the most recent one, and you'll just click OK and wait for that to download. All right, so we're gonna leave this PS3 update file alone for just a second, and we're gonna go into the, oh man, we need to unzip another file? Dude. Okay, I know my PC looks a little messy right now. I promise it's usually cleaner than this. Okay, just bear with me. I do recommend cleaning up all of your files that you download if you're just planning to do this. All right, once everything is extracted, we'll just go ahead and open this up for later, and then we'll actually go ahead and set up RPCS3. Where did my stuff go? Here it is. There we go. RPCS3. We're going to open that up. Yes, I want to use the Yes, I love reading. You'll just click on I have read the quick startup guide, totally, press continue, and whoa, here it is. The first thing that we want to do before we do anything else, to acquire these BIOS files, we'll go into File, you'll go into Install Firmware, and then you'll go to wherever you installed the firmware. For me, it was the downloads. Here it is, ps3.update. We'll click Open. It'll install the firmware. Perfect, we did it. Now let's go ahead and minimize this for the time being. Hey. Okay, fine. I'll let you load some more if you really want to. Okay, there we go. It worked. Now that we did that, we can go back into the claim tool and we'll just select both this file, the Windows PowerShell, and the batch file. We'll copy those and we'll paste them into this folder here where our RPCS3 is, and then we'll double click on the Windows batch file. I accidentally forgot to close the program, so be sure to close the program before actually running the batch file. There we go, and it's finished. So we can click any key to continue, so let me just click the space bar, because why not? And then, ta-da, if we scroll all the way back up, you have all of these nice whittle itty-bitty files here. The ones that we want are... one of them, where is the here it is. So the PS3 BIOS, or the PS1 BIOS, for whatever reason spawned all the way down here, so we're just going to click and drag that one and move that one out. We'll click on this one here that says Emu BIOS, probably for emulation. We can go ahead and close these folders now and reopen duckstation. There we go, click next, and here we are. We can click on NTCSC UC US Canada, and then instead of auto detect, we'll click on unknown PS whatever, and then we'll click next. And then this is, you know, where all the ROMs are and stuff. We can click add, and then I'll go to my ROM directory again. We'll click next. It'll ask what kind of controller you want. Right now I'm not using a controller, I just have my keyboard. We'll move on. We can, you know, adjust the internal resolution, the texture fixturing. Most of this is stuff that you can do later if you want to, but the one that I recommend changing is the internal resolution. Again, depending on the device you kind of have, 4x is kind of where I would stop. I believe this is 1080p. Actually, no, 5x is 1080p, but you can go all the way from 2 to 5x, and that should be perfectly fine for the game that you're running. Oh, and it asks you if you want to set up your retro achievements, so you don't need to do all this in the settings. This is so cool. If you want to enable it here, and then if you want to enable the hardcore, you can do that there. And just as a friendly reminder, hardcore just means that you can't do anything like rewinding, fast forwarding, save states. All of that is disabled when you have hardcore enabled. And then the setup is complete and we're good to go. And would you look at that? It's loading up all my ROMs. DuckStation is so cool. A similar process should be happening for you if you're using the Android build. So let's boot up a game here. What about Chrono Cross? I know people love Chrono Cross, and I do too. And whoa, would you look at that? It's working. Very cool. I did not mean to full screen. If you press escape, it'll boot up the menu here, just like PPSSPP, whatever. You can resume the game. You can toggle fast forward. Again, if you have hardcore enabled, this won't work. You can change a whole bunch of stuff. But for now, we'll just close the game. And if we go back and we boot up our installer for PCSX2, it'll take us through this process again. We've already seen it. We know what's going on. We'll do the standard installation. Just click next for all of this. Nobody cares. Create a desktop shortcut. Sure, why not? Install. For Android, you won't be using PCSX2. You'll be using something called Nether, and I'll leave a link for that in the description, but the process is still the same. You will need a PS2 BIOS, which I've just shown you how to do, and it's very similar to the layout of this program here, so you should still be able to follow along. And if not, just complain about it in the comments. Now that I'm thinking about it, because this is a beginner guide, we're not going too terribly deep into any one of these emulators, but if you do want to see me go and dive into a specific emulator, I can make a dedicated video about each and every single one of these emulators. Just feel free to let me know down below and I will consider it. To complete the installation, blah, 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 setup, you must restart your computer. Boo! All right, we're back. When you double click on the shortcut here that I have, it'll take you to the wizard. This looks exactly like DuckStation, so we know everything and everything. We can open up our BIOS directory, so we'll browse. We'll go to the desktop where I have it. We'll select the folder, and boom, here we go. You'll click on the PS2 BIOS. You'll click next. It'll ask you for your ROM directory, we'll click add. And just like DuckStation and every other thing, we go to our ROMs folder. Then we'll click next. It'll ask you what kind of controller you're using. It says DualShock 2. All this means is what controller it thinks it's using. So if you're using an Xbox controller, it'll pretend like it's a DualShock 2 controller. Or if you're playing something like Guitar Hero and you want to use your keyboard for some reason, you can set it up to mimic the guitar for Guitar Hero games. Great, now we're done. Click finish, and just like DuckStation, it populates everything here. Awesome. And then, I don't know, let's click on Bakugan, and it should run. Ah, there we go, it's running, woo! And again, just like DuckStation, you can press escape and it'll give you all of these settings here. Achievements isn't enabled, so let's go ahead and try and enable that. It didn't ask me in the initial setup. Let's go to settings, scroll down to achievements, and a new pop-up window will pop up. And then you'll click enable achievements. We can enable hardcore. Oh, that's encore, sorry. We'll enable hardcore mode. I don't think I explained what encore mode is. If you've beaten a game 100% or you've already unlocked a lot of the achievements, you can click on enable encore mode, and every time you boot up the game, it will pretend as if it was the first time you booted up, and you will still re-earn the achievements. All right, but now that we know it's working, we can just close out and move on to... Here we go. Woo, Dolphins. Dolphin plays all of your GameCube and Wii games. This is the home page here. You'll click on download Dolphin for Windows, and then you'll scroll down. Very similar process to everything else. There are nightly releases, and then there are stable releases. If you scroll down to development versions, these are like the nightly releases. Like, so this one, for example, was released 4 days ago, whereas this one was released 2 months ago. This one's going to be a little bit more stable. So let's go ahead and just download this. There we go. I've went ahead and extracted the file. We're going to double click on the folder here, and we can just double click Dolphin and it will open up. Whoa, look at that. Do you want Dolphin to report information to the developers? No. Luckily for us, it looks like Dolphin has recently allowed for retro achievements to be used. So if you'll go to tools, click achievements, and look at this. You can enable the retro achievements, and just like everything else, you can log in here, enable hardcore mode, do all the fun stuff that you would normally do with retro achievements. And I almost forgot, we want to double click on just anywhere in the screen here to set our ROM files. So let's do that. There we go. And similar to DuckStation, PCSX, RPC3, it's going to populate everything with stuff. And then, of course, if you wanted to go to config files, you could do that and mess with stuff. Controllers is a little bit wonky because the Wii had a, that thing. We just set it as a standard controller, and then you can configure it from there. This is what a GameCube controller looks like. Don't be intimidated by this. There's all these buttons. So like the A button is usually like your jump button or like your main action button. If you have a Wii controller, I recommend just playing around a lot with these settings to kind of, get yourself familiar with things. But you can change it from standard controller to a GameCube controller to nunchuck. I don't know where it is, but it's here, I promise. Ah, no, here it is. It's right below us. Here, it's an emulated Wii remote. This is for GameCube, the top one. The bottom one's for Wii remotes. Whoops, my bad, guys. You'll usually click on emulated Wiimote, and this is what you do here. This is how you set up all your controls for the Wiimote. Again, I recommend just playing around with the controls to see what best suits you. Okay, Azahar is basically just Citra, but Azahari. This plays all your 3DS games, so you'll click on download just like everything else. They do have an Android release, so you can do that. For now, we're just going to mess with the Windows release though. Here we go. We'll double click on the app, select our language, which is indeed English. Pretend like you know how to read things. Install for everyone on this computer. No, we'll just install it for me. Create a desktop shortcut. Yep, we want to do that. Yep, sure, we'll install. Again, all of these things are relatively similar to each other. All of the setup processes, they may vary like slightly, but all things considered, they look and act pretty much the same, which is good for us because that means if you know one, you pretty much know them all. So we'll finish here and we'll run Azahar right off the jump. And here we go. Now, the thing about 3DS ROM files is that they need to be a specific file type. So let's just say you have a 3DS file and it says .3ds. You want to change that to CCI, and then if you click and drag it, it should work. Never mind, I lied. Okay, so depending on where you get the ROMs, if you rip it yourself, you're going to need something called the 3DS decryptor. Now, this is going to allow you to actually play the games. Go to the download. There we go. There's the batch encryptor, or decryptor, my mistake. Here we go. Ta-da! So here it is. This is very similar to what we had before with the BIOS file, except for it's going to be a little different. We'll take our 3DS file, again, Mario and Luigi Dream Team. We'll click and drag it into here, into the 3DS decryptor folder. Once that's done, you'll click on batch CI or 3DS decryptor. Double click that. It'll run through the program. There we go. And once it's finished, you'll just click any button. And here we are. We have the same file, but it is decrypted. Okay, now just because we have this file doesn't mean that it'll start working. So even when we click and drag it onto Azahar, it doesn't work. But if we double click it and now we change the file name to CZI, it should work. And it still doesn't work. What the Okay, so we just set the ROM directory folder. All you have to do is double click or apply new application directory. And then when you double click, it'll launch. I don't know why clicking and dragging doesn't work. It usually works with everything else, or at least all the other emulators. Azahar is just being a little butt munch, and it should load. There we go. Yay, it's loading. It works. And then of course you have all the tools and stuff like that. When you go to view, you know, you can do full screen, screen layout. All of this is very similar to melonDS. You can also customize your layout if you really wanted to. We can configure things, you know, like, whoa, look, here's all the stuff. Again, very similar. Here's the controls. Again, you can play around with these as much as you like. Graphics. For graphics, I recommend 4x native and below is usually what I recommend for any device. And if you want to talk more about emulation, or if you have questions for me, you can either post it down in the comment section below, or you can join the Discord, the newly formed Discord, and, you know, hang out with everybody there. I'm sure everyone will be, you know, excited to answer your questions. But with that said and done, hello everybody, I'm just a dude, and this was What is an Emulator?